My son was only 1 year old when I was with people opposing women abuse, but everything that I've done after that has been with the mindset of how do we change the world to make it better. Well, for me, the thing about motherhood is that it does change you if you allow it to. And it changes you in the sense that the world just it does not seem the same anymore. Once you have a child and you bring a child into this world, you definitely want to make a contribution to making it better somehow. And well, for me, and again, I say, if you allow it to, I've allowed it to, and I know a lot of women who've allowed it to do this, where your child is not the only child of yours. And I love what you're saying, that your children are not the ones that you carried for 9 months necessarily only and gave birth to biologically, but the children of the world become your children. Animals, your dogs become your children. Your,
Yes.
your, yeah, your social media groupings and WhatsApp groups, those you've adopted, there are, NGOs that have children where you might go and visit once a month or whatever it is. Those become your children. The world's children become your children. Literally, people become your children. You just gain a different understanding in terms of how connected we are as human beings and how we need to take that connection to a step further where we're not just realizing or identifying parts of ourselves in each other, but we, after identifying the similarities that we have, want to do something to make it a better place for other people. I would never in my life have thought that I would be counseling survivors of abuse.
Sure.
But I found myself, after having my son, who was born 17 years ago, I think he was a year old at the time. And I found myself saying, but I need to actually hear these stories of these women who have survived abuse.
Sure.
And I enrolled with people opposing women abuse. I didn't even know what exactly the work is that they do. I just knew that they work with survivors of abuse. I found myself going through training as a counselor, and I found myself talking to women on the phone to, hear their stories, horrific stories. But somehow, I don't know where the strength came from, but I had just said, I'm going to do this because my son is not going to grow in a world that abuses women. And he's going to know as a man one day, this is not how you conduct yourself. And my daughter's going to know, who's now 14, but she wasn't born at the time, that this is not the kind of society we want to have. This is not the kind of world we want to have. And if me counseling a woman on the phone, just talking to her through her ordeal, and she's crying, and that crying and release makes her feel better after that, then I'm going to do that. And to be able to detach from that, I surprised myself to be able to do that because I didn't think that's anything that I would have done. But you see, this is what motherhood did to me or did for me. It allowed me to open up to wanting to change the world, to make it a better place, not just for my kids, but for literally the rest of humanity. Wow. And it's just been like that ever since. My son was only 1 year old when I was with people opposing women abuse, but everything that I've done after that has been with the mindset of how do we change the world to make it better. And that's literally what it is. You sometimes won't have the money to do it because we don't all have the financial resources, but there's power in being able to avail yourself to somebody just to talk, or even go to play with kids for a Saturday that are in a shelter, or you hold workshops for teenagers who are trying to figure life out, and you are the older sister that can give them guidance. There's so much we can do that does not actually involve money.
Wow.
So for me, motherhood is that if you allow it to, it will change your perception. It will open your heart up to being a mom to not just your own children, but to other kids. But the other thing, which is I think the second major thing for me that motherhood has taught me, is just being able to let go and detach from my children in the sense that they are not an extension of me.
Oh,
Took a
yes.
while to get there.
Oh, bless. Yes, it takes a
They are
while.
not an extension. They're not mini Asandas. They are Kayelo and Tabo, and they are their own incredibly intelligent individuals. And I had to learn that just let them be, please let them be, because that's who they're supposed to be. They've got their own purposes in life. And my job is not to make them fall in line with what I think they should be or do, My job is to be a custodian of empowering them to want to be who they meant to be. So if it means now I must forget about, if I said whatever, I'm just making an example of some of the, maybe ingrained teachings in my mind from my childhood, that if you are the older one, then you need to be the one that does the cooking or whatever it is.
Mm.
And the younger one says, no, but mommy, I can actually do it. Or if this one says, I'm not washing dishes, I'd rather take the trash out, but it's the other way in terms of gender roles, then who am I to tell them
Yeah.
the other way? At the end of the day, the chores will be done. The discipline is still there, but they are still who they are. And if
Mm.
this one says, I'm not going to get into soccer, I don't want to do soccer, I'd rather go and play piano. Who am I to say, no, but you have to do sports because we did sports growing up.
Sure.
So those kinds of things, that's the second major lesson, just to let go and understand that they are not an extension of you. They are their own individuals with their own purpose.
Brilliant. I love that so much. I love that you inspired us to give of our time and energy in whatever way it shows up, because money and finances is just energy, to open up space for people to actually embody the motherhood archetype, whether you have your own child or not, whether you are a parent with a child in the house, or you can be the parent another child needs. It's a very, it's a subject close to my heart, because I remember in my life the big sisters that I didn't have. Only child with a mother. Don't have the best relationship with my birth mother. But I had so many spiritual mamas throughout my life that were there, that didn't have to look after this child, that didn't have to give her advice, give her clothes, give her all of these things, but they did. They showed up in that way, and it made me a whole different human being than I would have been if they weren't there. And then allowing your children to be, letting go. I know Dr. Shafali always says, Dr. Shafali Tabari, I absolutely love her work. Um, Her book, A Radical Awakening, just changed my life. But she always says that it's this beautiful dance of like being there for your children and letting go, and being there and guiding them and letting go. And I always think I honor mothers and I honor parents in whatever form they come in, for being that, for not holding on too tight and letting us be who we need to be and embody who we came to embody. And I think it's so beautiful because it shows your trust in your children. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things you can do for someone, is to say, I trust you in your unfolding. I will be here for
Yeah,
you, and I trust that you will unfold in the way that you need to. So it's so great to hear.
yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing, they're teenagers now. So that trust theme plays itself out even more
Sure.
because you can't baby them at this stage.
Yeah.
And babying them, wanting to protect them, is actually not doing them any good.
Mm.
Because on the other side of trust is the responsibility that they now will have. And that responsibility,
Sure.
they need to go into this bigger world with. Because
Yeah.
if I say I trust you, if you say to me, Mommy, please don't hover over me when I'm doing my homework. I know what to do. Just leave me alone. I'll do the homework. And then you don't finish the homework. You know there's going to be a
Oh.
consequence, and you're going to have
Yeah.
to take the responsibility because I let you go and stay and do what you wanted me to do. But now the results are not showing that I can trust you. So now what happens? And then we have these
Mm.
conversations. The whole thing of because I said so, that phrase does not exist in my home. It doesn't. We talk about things and we find solutions and then we go back to the drawing table if that solution didn't work and together we move forward. But ultimately, they know I trust them, but they also know that there's a responsibility with that trust on their part.
As in life. So, what a great platform that is for them to launch off of. To know that when people have your trust, there is always a responsibility on your end as well. It's always that give and take. That's such a beautiful lesson. I want
Mm.
to ask you one more question, and then we're going to get into a couple of fun rapid fire questions that I've got in store for you. But if you
Okay.
could give your 16-year-old self one piece of advice with the perspective that you have now about life and all of the things, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
I'd say do what you're doing. You're supposed to do what you're doing at 16. You're not supposed to know what I know when I'm approaching 40, when you are 16.
Ooh.
So just do what you're doing. You're going to find your way through life. I don't think she would have listened to me anyway, because she would have thought, who's an old woman? What is she talking about? I don't think she would have listened to me. I've always been this person who just wanted to do my own thing, figure things out on my own. But also, I mean, I think it goes, I think, as a general answer to this question, because at the age of 16, you're not supposed to know what I know when I'm almost 40. You are going to go through what you're going to go through at that time, but let it be. It's all going to be part of the journey and the lessons that you need to gather for yourself to get to this strong and purposeful woman at the age of almost 40. And so just live your life, do what you're doing, continue, do you.